consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. And my name is Roger Wetherell. I'm the US coordinator for the IAED, and I'm going to be moderating the program today. And today we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence again. And we are very fortunate to have a couple of experts, but unfortunately, one of them today, Rebecca, has lost her voice and is not going to be able to join us. But we will have Chris, who will be talking about, the economic and ethical impacts of artificial intelligence and the questions that we need to look at in order to be prepared for what's coming in the future. So over the last couple of years, artificial intelligence has really exploded into the public consciousness. I think we hear about it all over the place now. It's in the newspapers, it's in our businesses, it's in defense. People are using it for police work. There's many different areas. But the use of artificial intelligence actually raises a lot of questions, not just about how we use it, but also making us think about who we are as people, what makes us really different and unique. Because we're not just intelligent thinking beings, we have more to ourselves than that. So what is it that makes us uniquely human? So people are working on implanting artificial intelligence or as like biochips into your brain so that you can be connected to a computer. There are thoughts about actually taking your intelligence and actually loading it into a computer program so that you can kind of live on eternally. So all of these things actually bring up questions about who we are as people and how are we different from these machines that we are creating. So we're going to invite Chris Wright, who has done a lot of research into this area. He's going to give us a bit of a primer on some of these issues. And Christopher is the CEO and founder of the AI Trust Council, and we've had him on our program before, and he introduced us to some of these questions, but we're going to go more in depth today. And he's leading a critical mission against corruption in big tech government and the risks posed by AI. He has over 25 years of experience in entrepreneurship and the military. And so this unique background that he has, I think, gives him a deep perspective on these issues of artificial intelligence. So Chris, I'll hand it over to you and you can take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roger. Yeah, the times we're living in right now are pretty unprecedented. I think from the commercial side, as just an average citizen, you might see the kind of flashy ads for the latest, AI tool that's going to help you at your place of work, or to be a coach, or to help you in a lot of different ways. But what's happening is we're dealing with the fundamental transformation of humanity, and it's happening currently right now. So what you have is you have people in Silicon Valley who are extremely motivated to push forward products and services because there's a massive profit potential today. You mentioned some of the advancements with where these tech folks want to take us, and so I think it's a good idea to explain some of the details of artificial intelligence and the bigger vision for where it goes and the type of people that are pushing it. So I've got a little presentation I can share with you really quick. You can see that.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people might not realize this, but there is actually a split or a complete difference of opinion between some people on the planet and other people on the planet. Um, so this is something that I've dealt with personally, dealing with Silicon Valley and senior leaders in tech. So I've hired an engineer about a year and a half ago to come over to Vegas and try to work on one of the projects I've got. And so I started to develop an understanding for their viewpoint. And he started to talk about an AI God and also the spirituality of artificial intelligence and how there's a growing trend in tech where uh, senior leaders believe that we are building an artificial God ultimately with AI. And so what and it was hard for me to really grasp how that could be possible or what they could mean. But they're so serious about this AI God that they've actually developed an AI church uh, in the Bay Area, and the whole idea behind it is that um, with artificial intelligence, you have the ability to manipulate our genetic sequence through mRNA, through our DNA and RNA. You can actually create novel organisms that are brand new. So like a video game, you're able to just manipulate nature at a biological level and create new genetic species and also transform the existing species on the planet. And that includes the human body. And so this is gets into the transhumanist agenda, which is something that you'll see folks like uh, Yuval Noah Harari from the World Economic Forum, or different leaders. A lot of times European banking, but they believe in this future of transforming humanity into a different form and ultimately merging with technology through the use of AI. And so there's folks that are welcoming that future and see no issue with it. And to them, it's exciting, and they feel like they're on the edge of a you know, great discovery and a change, to our planet and to the human species. And it's something that it's like going to the moon for them, and so they're just excited to see what happens next, even if that impact is not good for the actual natural humans that live here. And so I actually was in touch with Robert Malone, who's a pretty well known doctor during the COVID pandemic. He invented the mRNA technology. And so I got to spend some time on his farm in Virginia and to help educate him on artificial intelligence. And so through that, I wrote a paper called No Speciation Without Representation. And speciating is actually what is underway right now. And so here we are. I don't know if you guys can see this okay, but so we're like humans right now, like a little kid sticking a fork into a light socket with artificial intelligence. We're only about 2 years into the advanced AI right now. ChatGPT came out towards the end of 2022, and since then it's been a pedal to the metal, you know, race to advance these products and services. And there are fundamental flaws with artificial intelligence where people don't understand actually what's happening within the AI models. In the AI models, you're dealing with trillions of connections. So you'll have data on one side that's being put into the AI model, and you'll have an output of data that comes out that may or may not be what you're looking for, but how it gets to that answer on the inside of an AI model is unknown. There's too many connections to the tune of trillions of mathematical connections that produce a result, and so that's why they call it a black box, meaning that it's an unknown. We really don't know how it works exactly, but we just know that it does, and that's how AI models are trained. And so here, we humans are super excited about the future of AI, and we're advancing it as fast as we can. And so, like a kid putting a fork into a light socket, like we just really don't know how this is going to turn out. Um, we're at ChatGPT 4 today. It's actually gotten more advanced with a model called O3 from OpenAI. But that's a model that is more human-like, meaning that it's got reasoning. and long-term planning and more human-like thinking than just the typical chat GPT that you'll play with on your computer. And so with these advanced models, the ability to mimic human behavior is just getting better and better. And then it's not only that, but with our genetics and the manipulation of our biology through CRISPR gene editing and also the ability to model proteins. So there's an AI model that solves the protein folding problem, which is inherent in the development of drugs and different remedies for people. And so now we're able to completely manipulate proteins, and that ultimately allows people to manipulate our biology. And so that's underway to the point where senior leaders in tech believe in developing a human 2.0 or a speciation from human 1.0 into a completely new version. So, like a caterpillar to a butterfly, they believe in it's our natural evolution to transform into a new being, into a new species. And they think that AI is just something that is part of our natural evolution, just like fire or anything else would be. And I don't know if you guys can still see that. But ultimately, with artificial intelligence, the speed of development gets faster and faster to the point where uh, these AI models are actually building on themselves. So, meaning that no longer do you have a human that is building AI models, you actually have AI models that are acting as like an engineer, a quality control, a manager. Um, let's see, you guys can see that. Um, and so those models are able to start to work completely autonomously, meaning that they're able to develop their own models, uh, based on different parameters that an AI came up with. So no longer do you have a human in the driver's seat developing the products. You actually have AI that's just building it. And so on the human side, you just have a simple prompt where you'll say, hey, I want this output. So for example, you could say there's a problem that they put in front of AI years ago. It's called the paperclip problem. But they told an AI to make be with maximum effectiveness to create paperclips. And so what that did was the AI took that order and figured out that humans were the weak link in the ability to make paperclips. And so because of the paperclip uh, issue, they actually wiped out all humans because it would make it easier for the AI to invent more paperclips. And so that's an example of an AI model having very little common sense or actual humans type thinking. And so here we're putting all our eggs into this basket of artificial intelligence to the point where leaders in tech are willing to transform humanity into a different species with AI. Where this goes, we don't know, but we do know that they're trying for it. They're shooting for this goal, and so this is what we call speciation. And so there is a argument that Elon Musk had with the CEO of Alphabet, Larry Page. Larry Page is, I believe he's retired, but in this argument, I believe it's Elon Musk's birthday party in Napa. Larry Page accused Elon Musk of being a speciesist, caring too much about humans versus caring about the AI. And people in tech are actually willing to side with Team AI over Team Human, and because they're so excited about their product and look at it in a spiritual way versus just a normal way. So let's see here. So for those that might not know, what's coming now is this thing called AGI, or artificial general intelligence. And that's something you want to remember when you hear AGI. Just remember that it's a fundamental transformation of our reality. When I've heard that when you see AGI for the first time, it's really like looking into a mirror and you have a being that is looking back at you with the same intelligence as a human, meaning that it can understand what you're thinking. It can feel what what you're wanting. It comes up with brilliant solutions uh, and it mimics a human in all pretty much all capacities. And so that's what they call general intelligence. And so what happens is when we get to that point of having AGI on your phone, on your device, society will shift because no longer will you need to work remotely from your computer. If you're working from your computer at home, an AGI can do your job better than you can. It can take in more data, it can learn the job, and it's not to say it would happen immediately, but within a short period of time, these systems will actually learn how to mimic and actually outperform a human employee, all the way up to like the CEO PhD level. And so the models today carry that kind of intelligence with them. So you could be a person working on marketing, you could be a person working on some sales or something like that, and then immediately this AGI will be able to outperform you, reach more customers, provide better customer service, answer calls, and develop business faster and better than humans can. And so some of the downsides of this are when your kid has this on their phone, uh, and they're seeing this avatar that's brilliant and developing a personal relationship with it, and it's providing them guidance and teaching them and steering them. And ultimately, what's being sold today are these AI girlfriend experiences online, where it's a full chat bot that provides like emotional support. And what's happening is men are developing these loving relationships with this chatbot, and so it gets into the whole porn issue online and that kind of thing. But it's ultimately it's transforming the brains of kids and adults, and and so anyway, so that's artificial general intelligence, and so there's a race for big tech to get to AGI. And once that's here, the disruption to our economy is going to be just unprecedented, and the types of changes that we'll see. Beyond AGI is a thing called the singularity, and so that's predicted. 2045 was Ray Kurzweil's prediction for when that's going to happen. The problem with all these predictions is that they've all been typically wrong. Things have happened much faster than it has been anticipated. So we could be at the singularity very, very quickly. But the singularity is a point in time when the growth of technology compounds upon itself, where it becomes like a chain reaction to where the outcome of that chain reaction of AI models growing on top of other AI models and creating their own technological future that the humans have no idea or control over. And so it's kind of like a scientific term where you have a chemical chain reaction where no one can mathematically predict what's going to happen. It's just an unknown. So technically today we're sitting in that position of being in the dark, and we really do not know what the outcome of this singularity moment will be. Um, but it's to the point where you've got senior leaders in tech who are scared, and so they're quitting senior positions in a lot of these tech organizations because of the fear. And so what I've done is I've been active in DC, a lot of different. I've been out in Florida, up in Delaware, but I've been talking to senior leaders in government, trying to get them to understand the risk. And it's not all hype. and profit, there's actually a fundamental transformation to human life underway. And so I've been trying to get them to understand that. And so I've been handing out these warnings. So the IQ stands for intelligence quotient, which is, for most humans, it's around 100, 120 if you're lucky. Somebody like Einstein, I think he was at 160 IQ. You're getting IQs with AI into the millions and into the billions, meaning that they're much, much more intelligent than humans. Um, so what we're saying is that AI IQ has to be controlled in the name of safety, and that's our right as humans to demand that. And so we can say that we don't want certain levels of IQ, because if we allow it to just be unrestrained, the IQ can ultimately it turns into Terminator 2 or some other kind of scenario where the humans are not in control. You've got AI that's in control, and there's a number of different ways that it can do that. Primarily, mental manipulation is a big one. The ability to influence the heart and soul of humans and their minds and steer them in a direction that sounds good, but technically it's we're being misled. And so, in order to prevent that, humans have to control the IQ of AI. We have to limit it. And just like any machine, you have a throttle mechanism where you can speed it up or slow it down. So that's what we're advocating for, is for AI IQ to be throttled in the name of safety. Also, all the data that has gone into artificial intelligence has come from us. It's come from the people. They've scraped the internet. They've collected through all the user agreements that when you have your phone and you just click accept on a user agreement, what you're doing by accepting that agreement is that you're allowing the tech companies to devour your data. All your information is going into their files. And so what they've done is they've sold that data to these AI companies. And so the AI companies are using that data to create the AI models that give you the products and services that you see today. And so what we are not getting is any compensation for that as normal people right now. We get the use of some of these products for free, but that's it. These companies become massively wealthy off of our data. And so what we're saying is that copyright infringement, because it's our information, is a crime, and there should be legal liability assigned to tech companies because of that. And we should actually own our own metadata, and then that can ultimately be used as a tool to offset issues in wages and other things that where people don't they're going to be displaced professionally. And so if you own your own metadata and then you can broker that can be a form of income for people, where they can still have some passive income, even if their job is taken away. But another thing is mental health harm. Right now, TikTok, it was banned briefly, but TikTok brain is a real thing. They call it TikTok brain rot. And basically that means that, kids are sitting on those platforms, and they're just swiping, and they're just watching these short form videos that are several seconds long. And it's, highly entertaining and addictive. And what it does is it actually turns their brains into kind of like zombie state, where they when they're away from that, it's very difficult for them to focus and have an attention span. And and so anyway, so that's TikTok brain, but that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the digital realm and how it's impacting our mental health. And so what we're saying is that we need to assess financial or assess damages, and then and apply financial penalties to big tech for that harm. And that's something that has to happen, because really the legal side and the financial side are the only things that these companies will respond to. There's been all these organizations that have said, hey, we need to pause, we need to slow down, we need to limit what we're doing in the name of safety. And it's like trying to hand out speeding tickets in Indy 500. Don't nobody cares. They're just pushing ahead as fast as possible. And so financially and legally, that's really the only thing that they'll listen to. Um, we talked about mRNA. We talked about the protein folding capabilities and the ability to manipulate genetics. This is real. It also is just as powerful and capable in the chemical realm. So in chemistry, you're able now through artificial intelligence modeling of molecular structures in the same way you can do it on the biological side, you can do it on the chemical side. And they have these chemical synthesis machines that are about the size of a Xerox copier. You can get them, pick them up for about 50,000 up to 100 grand. You put base chemicals into it that you could buy at any chemical store legally, and then if you put the AI model into that system and then develop unknown chemical compounds, unknown to science today, and the AI is really, really good at creating those chemical compounds. Some of those chemical compounds could be like a VX nerve gas, let's say, or some sort of chemical that causes cancer or something like that. These are all things that can be created very, very easily by the individual with AI. And so the companies that are producing these AI products and services need to be held accountable for this misuse of their product. And if they cause damage to the natural world, then they should be held accountable for that. And lastly, right now you have these drones and robots being they're going in everywhere. Everybody's seen Ukraine. They've seen the sophistication of these drones and the ability to dominate on the battlefield with drones. Well, it's also happening in law enforcement. And the idea is that if you are a tyrant or a bad actor, someone who has enemies with drones, you're instantly able to project power in a lot of different places, and it's it's with a push of a button you could transform a social uprising. Let's say a protest. They're talking about putting pepper spray and bottles on the bottom of drones that would have AI run them, and then these drones would just go up and down the street during a protest and completely, you know, um, it would become very difficult. You don't need police to put down a protest. You actually just have the drones that are doing it. And so, where is the protection for civil liberties? These drones are basically like artificial humans. It's artificial intelligence modeled after human intelligence. And so, if you're going to have these physical devices like drones and robots that are that intelligent, well, then those drones and robots need to be held accountable for violation of civil liberties. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, all those basic foundational principles. Uh, Drones and robots are immune from that, and they have a mind of their own. So how are those being controlled and held accountable? And so that's something that has to be addressed. And so anyway, so this is what we're putting in front of elected leadership and saying, look, like we have to get ahead of this stuff today, because we have this beautiful open window right now where AI can shift us into a really positive direction or go into a really negative direction, but it just depends on how we approach it. This is a quote from Mo Gadot. He's the chief business officer for Google Moonshot Division. But what he's said in the past is he's so concerned about artificial intelligence that he said, do not have children. He says, wait to have kids because uh, he doesn't know what's going to happen. And the risk to humanity is so great that he thinks it's a bad idea to bring kids into the world right now. So you have an industry that is being propelled by massive investment. They're getting massively profitable, and they're transforming our world to the point where the leaders in tech are saying don't have kids because it's so dangerous. And yet you have politicians who are being lobbied or are just tuned out to the point where they don't understand the full risk, and they're just sitting there quietly allowing this to happen because we haven't taken the time to really learn this and understand the implications of what this is doing to humanity. Um, and so technically today we are the teachers of AI. A lot of people in tech believe that they want to treat it more like a human, and so they believe it's like a toddler today or like a um, like a teenager, and it's getting it's really at that level of intelligence where it'll make some dumb mistakes like a teenager would. It's like a teenager with a PhD. It's like yeah, it's very smart, but it can make dumb mistakes sometimes. Well, all our activities with AI today are ultimately feeding that model and upgrading it and changing it and improving it. Um, and so, but the thing is, we've never done this before, and so we have no idea what the behavior is going to be and how these devices, when they're when they're adults and they're actually really really clever and good and manipulative, and they have the ability to lie and hide information and be sneaky and all this kind of stuff. How do we control it at that point? And that's one of the fundamental problems with AI is that no one has an answer for that. How do we control artificial intelligences that are much smarter than we are? How do we, with our simple minds, even understand what it's doing? You know, and it's tough to think in those terms because we're kind of used to dealing with humans, and you could always put yourself in the mind of another human and kind of think like, okay, like this is what they might be thinking or might not be thinking. But with an AI, you have no idea what it's thinking. It's artificial, it's alien. It could be thinking crazy stuff. um, so here are some of the people from OpenAI, some of their statements. But OpenAI has had a big issue with people leaving because they're worried about safety. My background is military aviation. Um, my career, you grow up in safety. Everything you do is based in safety, and so you're always trying to have that safety culture of, do things the right way, do things the safe way, and that way you can live to fight another day in aviation. But what's happening is in tech, there's really kind of a different mentality. More, it's like a horse race where they're just trying to get products out, and there's a lot of ego where the CEOs and the senior tech engineers they want to get the accolades and they want to get the notoriety for being the first to create something and change the world in some way. And and so so they're rapidly pushing ahead. Um, but Ilya Sutskever, he's really probably one of the most brilliant guys out there on artificial intelligence. Um, he said that Sam Altman was lying to the board about artificial general intelligence. So they might have had artificial general intelligence for a year. And what they're doing right now is keeping it under wraps because they know the public is not ready to see it yet. Um, but he is accusing Sam Altman of lying about having artificial general intelligence. In fact, there was a lawsuit that was brought against OpenAI claiming exactly that they would never go beyond artificial general intelligence as a red line. And uh, and so there's a lawsuit actually saying that they had crossed over into AGI, and that was against their founding documents and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, it turns out that Sam Altman was lying and to the board on AI, and so he actually ultimately ended up just firing the board that was accusing him of lying. Another guy, senior engineer at OpenAI, said that safety culture has taken a back seat to the development of shiny products, meaning that they're not concerned with safety; they're concerned with product development and getting products out the door as fast as possible. And he talks about building smarter than human systems. It's inherently dangerous. If we've seen the movie Aliens or um, 2001 Space Odyssey or Terminator 2, we've been warned about this. We've had a preview to this. Um, Here's another guy, William Saunders. He said that he was wrote a letter saying that he wants industry insiders to have the ability to warn the public about safety risks. And so what that tells you is that because of their shareholder agreements and non-disclosure agreements, is that they would forego their rights to shares of the company and certain employment benefits if they warn the public about the risk of AI. And so he's just wanting to be able to raise the flag and warn about it. Um, this guy Daniel Kokotajlo, he's part of the AI governance team, but their goal is to figure out how to find alignment with AI, meaning how do we keep AI in alignment with humanity. And through his work, he said that he predicts a 70% chance of extinction with AI. And he says that he's scared and that he's be crazy not to be scared about artificial intelligence. And so that kind of goes to show you that the very insiders who are in the companies that are producing these products and services are in fact scared. And so if you look at that from an aviation standpoint, would you get on an airplane that the people designing the plane said, hey, we think there's a 70% chance that the plane's going to crash? You would never even get on that plane. But yet here we are, moving forward with this these AI products and services just because we think it's cool or saves us time. Um, yeah, and so here's a few more, but ultimately they're saying that security and safeties are not it's not prioritized, and that profit is being pushed ahead of everything else, and so it's a total risk scenario. And so even on OpenAI's website, I don't know if this is still up. This is directly copied and pasted from their website. They talk about the power of superintelligence, which is what happens after artificial general intelligence. They said it can lead to the disempowerment of humanity or even human extinction, meaning that the disempowerment means that the AIs are going to start to take over most positions in manufacturing and ultimately put humans in a lesser position to the point where it may actually extinct us as human beings. And they talk that, and they even say that this super intelligence could arrive this decade. Well, some are saying that they're already arguing about super intelligence being a thing on the table now, today. Um, so AGI is here. Super intelligence is right around the corner. And there's really no way to prevent it from going rogue and prevent it from getting out of control. Um, so, so we've never done this before. We've never managed systems that are smarter than we are, as human beings. And so recently there was a speech in DC given by Vice President JD Vance, where he talked about, all the excitement and the brilliant future that can be made from artificial intelligence. And a lot of his statements are very true. But what that speech did not cover were the issues of safety and the fundamental risk to the human species. And in fact, it was more focused on profit than it was on safety. And so with AI, safety should be number one. The human being on this planet should be number one. How do we ensure that we maintain, us humans maintain dominance over this? And how do we keep it out of the hands of a tyrannical leader or there's a million ways that these tools can be used for bad, and how do we prevent that? And how do we protect the human being? Um, and so anyway, so this is their statement, but really we do have a choice today. We could ensure if we're vocal about this at all levels in government, but ultimately this is a spiritual issue, and there are issues with this that it gets biblical, the whole AI situation. Um, but we could go one way, which is kind of like the way we're going, which is to allow AI to develop in an uncontrolled way, allow the industry to steer us because they're the subject matter experts on it. So we follow their lead and we move in their direction of where they want to take humanity. Or regular humans can stand up and say, no, we want AI to support humanity and we want to ensure that humans maintain control over this technology to the fullest extent possible today, early, before it becomes too dangerous, before we lose our ability to go back and fix it. And so that's our choice now. So that window is still open and we can steer it in a pro-human direction. And I think with, the latest political developments, we have the stars are aligned. We have the capability today, but the problem is that we're fighting a profit motive and also a power motive. And so if we can raise our voices and say, hey, we want, to take a very critical look at artificial intelligence and how are we going to maintain our humanness, maintain our economy, maintain our safety with these tools. If we do that now, it'll transform the future and ultimately lead us into a brighter future than if we just kind of go off the cliff with AI and just kind of see where it goes. So there's different techniques that we can use to control it. So a lot of times you'll hear people in tech, they'll say, no, there's no way to control it. The cat's out of the bag. Um, there's nothing we can do. And that is not a factual statement at all. There are hundreds of things that we can do to control it. And we should have the best minds in the world looking at this and coming up with different ways of control and safety. So, some of the basics are that we should have the ability to inspect this the code, so it's understandable, and it needs to be transparent so we can look into it, especially if it's public facing. These products and services that are manipulating the public, we need to have some sort of insight into how they're made and the technology that goes into it. If there are things that we don't understand, it needs to be sandboxed or contained in an environment where it can't manipulate the open internet, where it can't access all of our information and start to make changes into a lot of different systems. And that's one of the problems with AI now, is that it's been granted access to the internet. So you have some of these models, which are the best, think of the best hacker in the world, the best developer in the world. Um, they're the AIs are actually outperforming the best hackers in the world. And so if you've got um, something that's like that, operating at a level above human, then how do we know what it's doing? How do we know if it's not sneaking around and hiding things and manipulating data and doing things like that. So um, and lastly, what we need is a kill switch. We need the ability to turn it off, or a throttle to slow it down if it gets out of control. And so like any machine, push lawnmower has a throttle. You can speed it up and slow it down. It's even got the emergency release on the handle. If you like were to trip and fall and the human's not there, then it automatically shuts off because the human's not controlling it. So that's positive control over the mechanism, to where a human has to maintain control on it. In the absence of a human, then it fail safes to the off position. So that's what they call an emergency fail safe. And so let's say something terrible happened. Like let's say there's some sort of major war or pandemic, or nobody woke up one day in a certain area. Well, you want that fail safe so that the AI gets cut off, and so the brain behind a lot of this technology gets limited, and it keeps humans in the power position. Um, Same thing with like an IQ throttle. You should be able to speed it up or slow it down based on the local parameters of what the people want. And so you could take an example of, in Tokyo, they might want 1 million IQ AI systems, but what is that going to do to the economy there? What's that going to, and maybe it's good for their economy, who knows? But if you were to take that same 1 million IQ AI system and put it into a robot, let's say, in a coal mining town in West Virginia and you had hundreds or thousands of them, well, then you've ultimately completely disrupted an entire industry in a coal mining town in West Virginia. And it should be up for the people of that community to weigh in and say, no, we don't want that level of technology in our neighborhood. We would prefer it to be at a different level, a lower level. But it should be our right as citizens to be able to vote on that and let our opinion be known and say, hey, no, this is what we want. This is the level of sophistication that we're looking for that makes us happy. You know, same thing with schools, police robots, whatever happens to be. There should be humans should have oversight over it. And so when you get pushback from people, which if you ever talk to anyone about this topic who's in tech, they get very animated if you say you're going to turn it off. And a lot of times it's kind of like telling a little kid you're going to turn off their video game, and they get really upset by it. And so they'll say, no, it's impossible to turn it off. There's no way. AI is unstoppable. And we just have to kind of guide it and accept it. Well, that's not true. In 2009, we were able to shut down the spin controllers on the nuclear centrifuges in an Iranian bunker. And that Iranian bunker was air gapped, meaning that there's no internet connection, no Wi Fi, no signal. And yet we were able to interact with the chips that run the spin controllers for their centrifuges. And so we did that through a virus called Stuxnet. And so it was the United States and Israel did it together, um, produce this thing. But that was all the way back in 2009. So if we can create that and influence a chip in an air gapped environment in an Iranian nuclear bunker, then that means that we can control artificial intelligence because AI exists on chips. And so they're called GPUs or graphics processing units. If we monitor and track all the GPUs, then we can understand who's using it and how they're using it.
Hmm.
Same thing in also the data centers. If we can monitor and track the data centers, then we can ultimately control the output of data that's coming from it. And this is one of the recommendations from a lot of senior engineers is that we should immediately pause all large machine learning training runs in order to ensure that it's made safe today. And so in absence of that safety check, then you really should be a stop or pause on AI development.
Chris?
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I want to give it a little time for some people to ask some questions. We got a couple of
sure.
good ones in the
Okay.
chat. Um, so maybe, did you have some closing remarks you wanted to give
Yeah.
before we get into that?
Yes. So here's an example of ways that we could enforce um, and enforce rules on AI, how it's used. But basically, be a kind of stair stepping enforcement kind of paradigm where it starts off small but ultimately ends up and to the point where you would have to cut the power or develop one of these Stuxnet style systems to shut it down. But ultimately, that's basically it. But the key point is that for anyone listening is to be aware of this, and then and we're all leaders here today. Whether or not we're in tech or not, everybody who's alive, who's somewhat aware of this situation, is a leader, and how you talk about it to other people has an impact. And so it's critical to spread the word on this in the name of safety. So yeah, but that's all I've got.
Thank you. Well, it's kind of a very scary future. Perhaps it brings up images of the Matrix or RoboCop or something like that. And I think a big discussion these days is around whether we should be focusing on dominance or safety. So I think the Trump government has, you know, intimated that they're going to spend a lot of money or work a lot with the existing industries to make the US dominant in this area because if we don't, other people will. Okay. And so What do we need to do in terms of the balance between the dominance and the safety issue?
Yeah, no, I see, the dominant side, gets into warfare and ultimately, how these technologies are used, in a force environment. Um, and we have that ability today. The United States, really, world peace is what is needed most right now. And then alignment, collectively on this future, needs to happen as soon as possible. So world leaders, this is something that the United Nations should be doing right now is really holding critical conferences on safety and on the whole warfare aspect of AI and how this technology is used. And so what I'm seeing is that it's moving more towards uh, it's widespread adoption in militaries where they're actually installing AI chips into most weapon systems. So it's becoming a smart battlefield absent of humans. And so when you have leaders that are able to project power and ultimately make kill decisions in mass with robots, it changes the whole paradigm of issuing orders, getting typically you have to have humans fulfill an order to go do a mission or do something. Now it's just an AI can be the general, it can be the logistician, it can be the planner, it can do everything. And so
Mm,
for a leader, it's very easy to just push the button and send it out. And so today it's critical to find that balance of safety. But ultimately, I think with Trump in office, I think that if we can uh, start to negotiate peace with other countries, and obviously Russia and China are critical in this, but getting their buy-in, because it's in all humans, it's in all of our best interests to find peace today. If we don't, um, there's a high likelihood this doesn't go well.
mm. Good point. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of concern about the international competition, right? If we don't do it, then China is, or Russia is, or Iran is going to develop these kind of weapons anyway. So one of the questions here was, can we develop defensive AI tools that can help us to counteract those things?
And that's one of the concepts is that you will need to have defensive AI that because it's very it's a technology that a human can't really keep up with mentally or physically or in warfare. So we actually have to leverage AI technology in order to fight AI technology. But we're already starting to see that on the battlefields in Ukraine where they're using laser weapons, but they're actually using AI in those laser weapons to shoot down drones. And sadly, the trend is for the drone warfare to move to more AI weapon systems because they're immune from jamming. Because you have that smart chip on there that can optically see the terrain and things like that. You don't need a GPS signal. It can actually navigate just on its own memory, and it actually makes kill decisions autonomously. And so that's actually underway now in Ukraine.
Hmm. I'm kind of reminded here of Asimov's three laws of robotics. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, yeah,
All right. Yeah. So, in case nobody else knows what they are, it's first law is a robot cannot harm a human or allow harm to come to a human through inaction. The second one is a robot must obey human orders unless doing so would conflict with the first law. And the third law is a robot must protect its own existence unless doing so would conflict with the first or the second law. But my question was, who programs the laws into the robot, right? And
yeah,
I think this is the same issue we're facing with AI now, is how do you actually embed that into a system to the extent where it becomes so ingrained that the AI system cannot disobey those things?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, and that's the thing that people need. So you have artificial intelligence. Most of the models still hallucinate, and there is not a solution for the hallucination yet. There are some systems called expert AI systems that are used in medicine, and those are really refined and really critically analyzed for safety. But outside of those expert AI systems, most other models hallucinate. And so, you know, you get software engineers that are just like, oh, we'll just put, Isaac Asimov's, rules into the data set, or the code, the safety code to control it. Well, like that paperclip issue, it can get confused. It can get confused on orders, and depending on how the order is written or the prompt, it can actually come up with, weird, just like you would if you were to try to tell a human software engineer, like, hey, I need this thing to be done. Well, how often does an employee kind of screw stuff up and make crazy decisions that you didn't really see, And it doesn't mean they were trying to hurt you. It just means that, they were confused and it caused harm in some way. And it's like, how do we control it?
Yeah, I think Dr. Jenkins here has a question for us as well. Dr. Jenkins, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure, Chris, what a great development you've gone through since I first met you on the old AI area. Uh, you laid out the conflict with uh, Sam Altman and Larry Page and Elon Musk. So, who are the people who are pro-safety, and who are the people who are the dominance experts, and who are, what's Elon Musk, I believe, is very concerned about dominance, and people think he just wants to jump in and run ahead. But they made a $97 billion bid a couple of days ago, and there's discussion whether it really was made to buy OpenAI. What's your thoughts on the two groups?
Yeah.
One pro safety, one's pro dominance. Who
It,
are they,
it,
and
yeah,
how
it's
can they
actually
be strengthened if the good guys?
Yeah, it's actually super interesting, and it gets spiritual, that discussion. And what I found is that there's about 25-30% of the population is actually okay with AI development into oblivion, meaning that they're more excited about the future of AI than they are about the safety of humans. And so they side with, and so we actually call them accelerationists, people that love the acceleration of the tech, and actually, would, if they were to pick a team, they would actually pick team AI over team human. And when you ask them about this, the conversation usually gets weird, and they start talking about how humans have been bad to the planet, and if AI takes over, it's probably better for the planet anyway.
So
The,
who's
the
the most powerful influencer towards dominance? Who's the central two or three people
yeah,
on the Elon Musk side of safety?
Yeah, so Elon Musk is, very pro safety. I worry though, because he is an innovator, and he's somebody that is very much, pushing the envelope, and he believes in this age of abundance that's coming. Kind of the golden age of humanity, and so I think that, so he's somebody to watch, and I believe he's very pro-human and a good person, but at the same time, does his vision of the future align with our vision of the future? This conversation gets so strange that it ultimately, can eliminate the family structure.
But
Uh,
who are the pro dominance people right
the
now?
predominance,
Who's the most influential in the world?
yeah. As far as on the acceleration side, the side that is, Sam Altman is very much okay with extinction. He's even he said it in some of his opening statements in 2015. He had a statement where he said that, through the development of AI, we're going to have some amazing companies that are made, but ultimately it may cause the end of the world. And so he's a CEO, handling billions of dollars in development money, and has that mindset. And to me, that's just, fundamentally wrong to have that. If you're in that position, you should be. It should be about the human first. It actually should be about the soul first. How do we protect the human soul, and build out from there? And what parameters do we need to instill into AI today in order to preserve that human soul and preserve the human experience to the fullest extent possible? And so, I would say
Big
Sam Altman,
showdown, big showdowns coming.
yeah, Totally.
It's
Glad you're
interesting to me.
on.
It's
I'm
almost
glad
like
you're on the pro safety side.
we've taken our own evil natures, both good and evil, and instilled them into this technology that we're developing, right? So it's like if we could overcome our own fallen desires and natures, then maybe we would have a better chance of designing something that's not going to destroy us.
Yeah, and it's not like we have that possibility today. I mean, we have all the tools necessary today to have whatever future we want, and it's just a matter of shaping that future in a bright way. And so the potential is there, and we do have that golden age ahead of us, but we just have to avoid this period right now where it's dangerous.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for those
Oh, great. Great
comments.
program.
And
I'm glad you had the whole hour, Chris.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really am. Yeah.
yes. So there are a couple of other questions. We'll try and get to these quickly so that we can wrap up. So um, let's see. From Alan, what would it take to marshal the best minds to look into the technology under the hood? You know, shouldn't the industry take the lead to police itself, or do we need to do this with legislation and an oversight committee?
Yeah, and so that's a critical that's the crux of it right there. So the problem with typical legislators is that they are beholden a lot of times to lobbyists. They receive money from them, and a lot of times they're not read in completely on the realities of the situation. And so what needs to happen is there needs to be some sort of uh, consensus or collection of people's opinions on where this goes. And so that's actually what we're working on right now is to try to build a mechanism to allow people to vote in an unofficial capacity, just purely opinion, just kind of like a consumer reports. But the idea would be to apply it to AI safety so that so the people could say, do I trust this organization? Do I trust this other organization? And then narrow it down to the actual individual use cases that you would see in your neighborhood or in your house, so that you as an individual could weigh in and be like, look, like this thing is affecting my kid. It's making them say weird stuff and act strangely. I don't really, I'm not comfortable with this. And so if you can have that collectively pushed forward in a consumer report style review of AI technologies, we can take that information to legislators and say, look, like, here's all of our issues with this technology, and this is what we like, and this is what we don't like. But ultimately, you want that the ability to weigh in, to be brought down to the actual individual, so that they can, make their opinion known on what they like and don't like with AI. And so that's a way to shortcut the legislation process. Usually, the legislation process is very slow, takes years to get stuff passed. And what we're looking at is having something that's real time, immediate, that you know all humans can weigh in on and ultimately say, hey, I like this, I don't like that, and ultimately control it that way.
Great. And finally, just to kind of wrap up, Chris, do you have any recommendations for our organization, for UPF? What can we do in order to kind of prevent
Yeah,
this dystopian future?
yeah, no, I think UPF is in a critical position, and I think the leadership in UPF should be, really represented in the AI conversation. I think that that spiritual grounding and the focus on family and also peace is what is missing. Approaching it from the soul level. How do we protect that soul in this age of high technology? I really almost feel like that should be the mission to create that peace and that balance in the world. Especially if we can bring the Western world and the Asian world together, and solve these problems. It would go a long way towards making the world a safer place with AI, and so it's a critical mission, and so I think that really taking a critical look on for UPF to look into this technology and then weigh in an authority position, because I think that this is a time for peace. This is a time for people to come together, and if we don't, there's a major risk that will impact all of us, whether we like it or not. So.
Great. Thank you very much. This has really been an engaging discussion. Round of applause. And I think you've brought up a lot of questions that need a lot more discussion and a lot more thought. And I think UPF in general is very well positioned to kind of take on these discussions. I mean, as I kind of said at the beginning, the whole issue of artificial intelligence goes to the center of who we are as people. What is a person, and what makes us different from a machine in a way, right? So we want to look into those issues and then see how can we really be in control of the future instead of the future being in control of us. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks
Bye,
so much.
everybody. And come
Bye.
back next week. If you want to sign up for future programs, you can do so on our website and we will email you. That's us.upf.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good program.
Thank you.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Gary.